Hello, you're watching 7Edition with me, Muhammad Ahmad Hamdan, and these are the headlines. Zakir Naik apologizes for his controversial remarks. Plan for targeted RON 95 fuel subsidy to be announced in 2 weeks. And government to decide on two-wheeled e-hailing service in the country. Good evening. Firebrand Islamic preacher Dr. Zakir Naik has been barred from delivering ceramah or religious talks in Malaysia by the police. Police Corporate Communications Head SAC Dato' Asmawati Ahmad said the order was issued by Deputy Inspector General of Police Dato' Mazlan Mansur for national security. In a statement, Dato' Asmawati confirmed the issuance of the leaked memo to all state-level police chiefs. She also said the order was carried out to preserve racial harmony. Earlier, 7 states, namely Malacca, Johor, Selangor, Penang, Kedah, Perlis and Sarawak, have barred the controversial preacher from giving talks in public. Zakir is also being questioned by the police for allegedly making provocative remarks against Malaysian Hindus and Chinese during a ceramah in Kota Baru on August 3rd, prompting calls for him to be deported to his homeland. The Indian national, who is a permanent resident in Malaysia, is being probed under the Penal Code for intentional insult with intent to provoke a breach of the peace. Zakir also has been wanted by Indian authorities since 2016 for alleged money laundering and inciting extremism through hate speeches. Meanwhile, Johor police have received 244 reports against a controversial preacher. State Police Chief Muhammad Kamarudin Maddin said the police will also disallow any religious talks by Zakir.
So, di Johor ini saya akan berikan nasihat dan juga pandangan kepada Jabatan Agama Islam Johor, dan kita pun sebenarnya telah pun saya dipahamkan ataupun bahawa sebarang program untuk penceramah Zakir Naik ini di Johor ini kita akan tidak benarkanlah, sebab kita tak mahu mewujudkan kontroversi dan juga ketidakharmonian di Johor ini. Bagaimanapun utusan adalah di bawah Jabatan Agama Islam Johor. Saya akan beri pandangan, pendapat dan juga dari sudut keselamatan.
Muhammad Kamarudin was approached after the monthly assembly of the Johor Police and his handing over of duties of the State Police Deputy Chief to his successor, Datuk Shafi Ismail. In the meantime, the Muslim preacher has issued an apology for his controversial remarks that had caused hurt and stirred misunderstanding, especially among the Indian and Chinese communities in the country.
Even though I've clarified myself, I feel I owe an apology to everyone whose feelings were hurt because of this misunderstanding. I do not want anyone to harbor ill feelings for me. It was never my intention to upset any individual or any community. It is against the basic tenets of Islam. And I would like to convey my heartfelt apologies for this misunderstanding.
In a video posted online, he said he was against racism as it brings harm to the image of Islam. Dr. Zakir also called on non-Muslims to watch his speech in entirety. On Monday, police grilled him for 10 hours to facilitate investigations over his remarks, which were allegedly made with the intention to provoke as well as disrupt peace and harmony. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said on Sunday that Zakir was free to preach about Islam but should not speak about Malaysia's racial politics. A Twitter user using an account with the name Zikri Armstrong landed himself in court after he allegedly claimed that French-Irish teenager Norah Anne, who was found dead last week, was raped by Orang Asli. Muhammad Zakir Ibrahim pleaded not guilty in the Kuala Lumpur Magistrates Court when he was accused of intentionally insulting with intent to provoke a breach of peace. The tweet was uploaded just after Norah Anne's body was found by police during a massive search and rescue operation. The bail was set at 6,000 ringgit with one surety, and the court fixed September 19th for remention of the case. Her remains were discovered 10 days after she disappeared from a resort she was staying at with her family in Negeri Sembilan on August 4th. News on the missing teen also attracted worldwide media coverage. An autopsy later found that she died from intestinal bleeding, most likely caused by starvation and stress. The government will announce the mechanism involved in the targeted fuel subsidies for RON 95 in 2 weeks' time. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said all would be revealed in a press conference pending cabinet approval of the finer details of the subsidy. The subsidy was initially supposed to be implemented in June, but the ministry postponed it to fine-tune and come up with a workable plan that will ensure only those are eligible receive the subsidy. The targeted RON 95 petrol subsidy is a measure outlined under the 2019 budget to reduce the cost of living for the B40 group, defined as households earning less than 3,860 ringgit per month. The subsidy for car owners will be limited to 100 liters of petrol monthly, while motorcycle owners will get 40 liters monthly. Some 2 billion ringgit has been allocated for the new initiative, which is expected to benefit more than 4 million car owners and 2.6 million motorcycle owners. The 80-year-old Malay language newspaper organization Utusan Malaysia Berhad will not cease operations and will continue to publish its two newspapers, namely Utusan Malaysia and Cosmo. Its group executive chairman, Dato' Abdul Aziz Sheikh Fadzir, said the move will continue even if the company was in a difficult situation. He added that there were plans to improve the company's business model, including raising its price by 50 cents beginning Friday. The new development erased wild speculations that Utusan Group would cease operations tomorrow due to the inability to bear operating costs. He also urged Malaysians to support the Malay Daily by buying its newspapers despite the price increase. It was also reported today that trading of Utusan shares will be suspended with effect from August 28th, prior to its delisting 2 days later. Meanwhile, the Human Resources Ministry will work together with social security organization SOCSO to assist Utusan Melayu Berhad's employees who may lose their jobs. Its Minister M. Kulasegaran said his ministry is looking into the welfare of the affected workers and will offer compensation under the Employment Insurance Scheme EIS.
If there is any employees affected, we ask them to refer the matter to EIS, Employment Insurance System, where they will be paid some form of compensation. It will be for 6 months. The first month will be 80% of the salary. Then the second month will be on a lower rate of 50%, 60%, 40%, and that kind of thing. It goes down. In the meantime, they do retraining and rehiring of them. They also arrange for new employers to be interviewed and given that kind of privilege.
Yesterday, more than 100 employees from Utusan Melayu Berhad held a demonstration outside their headquarters demanding to be paid salary arrears of between 2 and 3 months. Workers were then informed that the company's operations may be closed if there was no solution to pay back the outstanding salaries. The government is open to proposals on any two-wheeled e-hailing service to operate in the country. Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siu Fook said any decision to allow Gojek, a motorcycle taxi service from Indonesia, to operate here will be decided by the cabinet.
We are open to proposals, we are open to suggestions from the private sector. Any private companies who want to invest in Malaysia, open their operations in Malaysia, and to propose solutions to our country is something that we are open to look into. So we are not going to reject any proposals per se, but of course further studies need to be done, and especially how the framework, safety aspects, operational aspects, all that have to be studied by our relevant agencies.
On Monday, a meeting between Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Youth and Sports Minister Syed Saddiq Said Abdul Rahman, Loke and Gojek founder Nadiem Makarim was held to discuss the two-wheeled e-hailing service in Malaysia. Syed Saddiq expressed his intention to introduce Gojek in the country to help create more job opportunities for motorcyclists as well as small business sectors. However, he also said the matter needed to be discussed further by the cabinet. In Pahang, the identities of 3 accident victims in Mengkuang Bera have yet to be identified. Police said this as their bodies were charred beyond recognition as the Proton Wira they were traveling in was completely destroyed in the 3-vehicle collision. Until 4 p.m. today, no one has come forward to claim the remains, and efforts to identify the victims and their next of kin are still underway. The accident, which occurred at about 6 a.m., also involved 2 lorries. According to a State Fire and Rescue Department spokesperson, the 3 bodies were found in the rack of the car after firefighters doused the flames. The lorry attendant was also injured while both lorry drivers walked away unhurt. All the remains have been brought to the Sultan Ahmad Shah Hospital for postmortem. 15 passengers had the fright of their lives when the double-decker express bus they were traveling in was caught in a 3-vehicle pileup in Malacca this morning. The collision, which occurred on the North-South Expressway near the Simpang Ampat Alor Gajah Toll Plaza, left the side of the bus partially torn off. Police said the 32-year-old bus driver tried to avoid another vehicle that had suddenly changed lanes. It then crashed into a 4-wheel drive vehicle and the back of a mobile crane that had stopped at the emergency lane of the highway. 1 passenger received outpatient treatment at the Alor Gajah Hospital for glass splinters on the leg, while the rest were unharmed in the crash. A 6-year-old boy died while his sister and mother were seriously injured after jumping off an apartment following a suicide attempt. The incident took place at Laman Damai apartment in Kepong, Kuala Lumpur at around 2:35 p.m. yesterday. Sentul Police Chief ACP S. Shanmugan Murthy said the 34-year-old mother and her 7-year-old daughter are being treated at the Kuala Lumpur hospital. He added that the victims were not residents of the apartment. Police are investigating the motive of the suicide attempt. We're going for a short break now, but when we return, Chinese tourists killed in Laos. Don't go away. Welcome back. China lashed out at Taiwan on Monday over its offer of political asylum to participants in Hong Kong's pro-democracy protest movement, a day after hundreds of thousands of people marched peacefully in the latest massive demonstration in the Chinese territory. The government of Taiwan, a self-ruled island that China considers its own territory, strongly supports the protests, and Hong Kong students in Taiwan held events over the weekend expressing their backing. Taiwan's president made the asylum offer last month, though it's not clear if requests have been received. Taiwan lacks a formal legal mechanism for assessing and granting asylum requests, although it has granted residency to several vocal opponents of the Chinese government. On Monday, Ma Xiaoguang, spokesman for the Chinese Cabinet's Taiwan Affairs Office, said Taiwan's offer would cover up the crimes of a small group of violent militants and encourage their audacity in harming Hong Kong and turn Taiwan into a heaven for ducking the law. Ma demanded that Taiwan's government cease undermining the rule of law in Hong Kong, cease interfering in its affairs, and not condone criminals. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's embattled leader Carrie Lam said she hopes for a return to calm after a massive weekend march passed without clashes between police and demonstrators. However, Lam refused to give ground to protesters' demands. Organizers said at least 1.7 million people participated in Sunday's Hong Kong rally and march, although the police's estimate was far lower. The protests have at times been marked by violent clashes with police, who say they have arrested more than 700 participants since the demonstrations began in June. Now, while the protests are ongoing, at least 13 Chinese visiting Laos were killed and dozens injured when their bus skidded off the road and plunged 30 meters into a ravine in the town of Luang Prabang. The bus was carrying more than 40 Chinese nationals heading towards a tourist town when the accident occurred late Monday. According to officials, 13 bodies have been recovered, while 2 are still missing. The accident was due to faulty brakes. He added that 31 people were receiving medical treatment in hospitals. Traffic accidents in Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Myanmar are common, with safety regulations often flouted and low law enforcement. The monsoon season from June to October also drenches rural roads, with heavy rains creating slippery conditions. Let's hop on to our daily segment, Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. A recent CCTV video uploaded on Twitter by 999 Malaysia shows how easily and suddenly your bag can be snatched if you take your eyes off it, even for a split second. The case happened in Mid-Valley Mega Mall in Kuala Lumpur just yesterday evening. In a place full of witnesses, the thief managed to slightly escape with the stolen goods and have the luxury of casually disappearing in plain sight. Here's the story. To our viewers, this footage is a reminder to keep handbags or valuable possessions within sight and reach, because in the blink of an eye, it can disappear. A man in spectacles clad in a gray t-shirt is seen walking into a jewelry store with a black jacket as he looks around suspiciously. After a few seconds, his eyes seem fixated on a handbag left exposed on a nearby chair while the owner faces the counter. At this point, the woman still seems to be engrossed with the jewelry, without any inkling that her handbag has been stolen. Even the staff and nearby customers were oblivious. It's not clear what happened after the theft, whether a police report was made or if the sly man was caught, but this unfortunate incident can happen to anyone, anytime, any day. Thanks for staying with us. Works to construct Malaysia's first flying car is now 85% complete. Entrepreneur Development Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Rizwan Mat Yusof said the prototype of the flying car is currently being built by a Malaysian company in Japan, as the economic powerhouse has a supporting ecosystem for the flying car industry. The ministry is also in discussion with various other ministries involved in the aviation sector to create available space for flying cars in Malaysia, similar to efforts undertaken in several other countries to complement skills of local entrepreneurs to develop a flying car. On whether the country's first flying car would be launched by year-end, the minister said it would depend on Malaysia's ecosystem for flying cars. A jobless stock trader who had earned $500,000 ringgit from a voluntary separation scheme, or VSS, was left with nothing following a fruitless equity investment. In revealing this, stock dealer Muhammad Rafiq Jajuli said the investor's misfortune could have been avoided if he was equipped with a basic knowledge of stock trading. In the world of investment, one basic strategy that perhaps every investor is familiar with is that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yet some people still do. According to Muhammad Rafiq, some of the most common mistakes made by beginners when investing in stocks include spending their entire life savings, taking out loans, and overtrading. More often than not, he said these would lead to a misfortune, forcing these novice traders to write off their losses and flee the stock market.
When you see more capital, you try to jump in, you try to invest more. If you don't have any proper education, maybe proper skill, maybe proper preparation in terms of doing what is best to be a good trader, you are losing everything. You need that kind of proper education, maybe analysis, you need to learn something, you need some coach maybe, so at least to help you out, how to make money from trading and what is the risk, what is the returns that you can use and what is the recipe maybe to make some potential trades.
Muhammad Rafiq said the two most important aspects that a trader should focus on in stock investment are fundamental and technical analyses. He said both methods are equally crucial in researching and forecasting future trends in stock prices to help investors make informed decisions when trading the security. Tune in again tomorrow for a more in-depth report on stock fundamental versus technical analyses. Bursa Malaysia wrapped the day on a slightly higher note, up 0.4% to finish at 1,602.75 points, backed by institutional support. The FBM KLCI also saw investors shift their buying interest to government-backed companies with solid financial track record as the market remains uncertain. On to stocks to watch. ELK Desa Resources Berhad boasts a favorable outlook following its move to expand financing of its receivables market as part of its vertical expansion plan. The company also remains an aggressive and prudent mass-market HP financing player in the Klang Valley. And next, Gas Malaysia Berhad is ramping up efforts to acquire new customers, which bode well for the company's outlook. The firm's production volume is also expected to rise in line with a growing consumption of natural gas in the country's manufacturing sector. And last but not least, Hexstar Global Berhad's earnings growth in 2020 will be driven by its combined group market share of 30% in Malaysia. The company is also poised to expand its market share to 40% in the next 3 to 4 years via organic means.